2 doors. Same street, same hour. A county officer lifts a strip of blue tape. He presses a notice onto the old sign across the road. The sign my ex swore he owned in spirit. If not on paper, I don't say a word. I just watch the letters go dull in morning light. Across from it, my sign warms and hums. River and Rye. My mother's name for a kitchen. My name for a life. People say revenge is loud, but some victories arrive like a door opening softly. You just walk through. If stories of second acts, steady hands, and women who build instead of break speak to you, subscribe and stay with me. I share one every week. Now, let me tell you how this door opened. My name is Evelyn Carter, 52, knees that complain when it rains, a mind that has learned to keep receipts, a heart that took the long way back to itself. For 25 years, I kept our kitchen turning. Schedules, vendors, payroll, the quiet parts of running a place that feeds a town. Mark handled the big smiles, the interviews, the showy plates for local TV. He was good at it. He was also good at believing a camera could cook. My mother Nora used to say, "Names feed families, Evie. Protect the name. The rest you can remake." She kept a notebook, stained with butter edges frayed. Between recipes, she tucked small things, a receipt, a clipping, a letter from a woman who loved a Thursday soup, and one page that mattered more than the rest, a sketch of a sign that read, "River and Rye" under it. 3 words in pencil, "Keep it registered." We never got that far. When cancer came, we kept her comfortable. We kept the lights low. We did not keep the paperwork. After the funeral, Mark moved faster than grief. He called it rebranding. New menu, new marble, new press. He said the word elevate so many times, I thought he might float away. He filmed with a young food influencer named Lena. Bright smile, perfect framing. Her phone never missed a tear of burrata or a pour of wine. They started saying his restaurant, not ours. Then, one afternoon, the accounting email changed. My name was gone from the inbox. A subtle thing, small like a splinter. Painful all the same, I asked for last month's invoices. Mark laughed, easy and loud. "Evie, relax. I'll take care of the grown-up stuff." I have been the grown-up stuff my entire life. That night, I pulled my mother's notebook from a box that still smelled like our old pantry. Butter, cinnamon, heat. I found the sketch again, River and Rye. My fingers rested on the pencil lines, as if heat could pass through paper and back through time. On the next page, my mother's handwriting, neat and certain. Names are promises, not decorations. If you ever need to start over, start with the name. I slept without dreams. In the morning, I made coffee that tasted like resolve. Then I called Ruth. Ruth Morales doesn't waste syllables. She is 61 and sees through fog like a lighthouse. She knew my mother. She has known me longer than Mark knew how to dice an onion. We sat at her small table with a pot of tea that could strip paint. I told her about the email, the rebrand, the way I could feel myself being written out of sentences I had built. Ruth listened. She moved a yellow legal pad closer. She underlined one word, name. "Evelyn," she said, "you don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You need to raise the paperwork." "Do I fight him in court?" I asked. "Not yet," she said. "First, you finish what your mother started." We did 3 simple things. But simple things can be heavy when you lift them alone. We searched the registry. No mark on River and Rye. Open field. We drafted the application. Used the notebook sketch. filed with dates, specimens, proof. We added a small feathered detail to the ampersand. My mother would have liked that. Then we looked at suppliers. I had paid them for years. I knew birthdays and back orders and sons going to college. I did not beg. I asked plainly, I'm opening a kitchen across the street. Same stew. Same standards. Same check on the first of the month. People who keep their word do not have to talk loudly. That night, Maya called. My daughter, 24, sharp as a cider apple, worried I was stepping into a fight I couldn't win. Mom, you don't owe him a war, she said. I don't, I answered. I owe myself a door. I found a narrow space for lease facing the old place. Brick tired by weather. Windows that needed soap and light. When I walked in, it smelled like dust and chance. I signed my name with a pen Ruth keeps for important beginnings. For 3 weeks we scrubbed, painted, seasoned the air with onions and stock bones and thyme. I cooked my mother's stew and watched the windows fog in the first cold of fall. Steam carries secrets. So do women who have survived a midlife storm. Across the street, Mark staged a soft opening for cameras. Strings of lights. Lena in a cherry dress, pretty as a promise. He said legacy into 3 microphones. No one asked whose. Ruth slid an envelope across my new counter. Sent, she said. Cease and desist. Not a roar, a line. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I stirred. I tasted. I added 2 grains of salt and turned the heat down by a whisper. On Sunday, the county office stamped our filing. On Monday, the notice went up on the old sign. On Tuesday, my sign lit for the first time River and Rye. The name felt like a coat that finally fit my shoulders. People came because soup meets people where they are. Hungry, lonely, curious, kind. Some looked at me like I had done something terrible. Some looked at me like I had remembered something important. Maybe both were true. Maybe starting over always looks like betrayal to the person who never thought you would leave. When the lunch rush softened, I stepped outside with a broom and a breath. Across the street, Mark argued into a phone. Lena stood off to the side, arms folded. Eyes uncertain, I did not wave. I finished sweeping, then propped the door open. A bell chimed. My mother always loved that sound. This is how my first day began. Not with shouting, not with a scene, just with a name, and a room that smelled like home. Stay with me, because the next door to open isn't made of wood and glass. It's the one in my daughter's voice. And the one in a letter my mother hid between 2 recipes. A secret that explains why I had to stand my ground. You'll hear it soon. For now, the pot is steady, the sign is lit, and I am finally beautifully open. The notice drew a small crowd. It always does. People like paper when it answers quiet questions. I kept my door open. I kept my apron clean. I kept my mouth shut. The first rule of a second act is simple. You don't gloat, you plate. By noon, the rhythm arrived. Onions, stock bones. Bread split with a soft sigh. Regulars found their way across the street. Not all. Just enough to feel like the town remembered my name. I posted 1 line above the register. We tell our story with soup, not with shouting. My hand steadied as I taped it up. It steadied the room, too. Vendors texted photos of their kids. The fish guy said his daughter got into nursing school. The flower guy sent a picture of a prom tux. I answered with confetti and heart emojis I had to look up. There are many ways to pay people back. That day I chose emojis and early checks. Ruth stopped by with a bag that held exactly 3 things: a fountain pen, a folder, and a cookie the size of a plate. We stood by the back door where the alley smells like rain and coffee. "Anything I should know?" I asked. "2 items," she said. "First, the administrative hearing is set for Friday morning. It's not a trial. It's housekeeping. Let the papers do the talking." "And the second?" She handed me the folder. "Found this in some of your mother's old files I stored years ago. I didn't think anything of it at first. Just thick paper in a thin skin. Then I saw my mother's handwriting. Steady, blue ink, the curl on her Y's, the quiet way she crossed a tea river, and Rye sat at the top of the first page in pencil, like a sign waiting to be painted. Under it, a date, 1996. And a story I'd never heard. "Evie," the letter said, "that winter was hard on your father's friend. The bank wanted more than he had, so I let him paint our name on his door for a season, kept the license under me, and paid for 2 deliveries to get him through. He promised he'd return the letters when he could stand again. He did. The debt is settled. Kindness is a bridge, not a deed. If you ever need to start over, start with a name and keep it registered. Love, Mom." I sat on the milk crate by the mop sink and felt the floor settle under me. Not anger, not triumph. Just something like alignment. Mark's father had borrowed the name, not owned it. My mother had carried a man through a winter. And then she let go. I looked up. Steam moved like a curtain. Ruth watched me the way old friends watch, without fixing, without filling the silence. "Now you know," she said. "Now I know," I answered. "And I don't have to explain any of it to a camera." We went back to work. I wrote a note for the staff. "House rule number 2, no one says his name on shift. We say please and behind you and hot pan. We keep the floor dry. We keep our side of the street." Lena came by that afternoon. Not with a phone. With a face I recognized from the girls I hired in summers past. Young, brave, a little afraid of the world, and of being ordinary in it. She stood in the doorway, hands tucked under her elbows. "I'm not here to film," she said. "I'm just tired of being yelled at online for something I do not understand." I poured her water. I offered bread. She took both like someone who had been polite more than she had been fed. "You're not my enemy, Lena," I said. "You're just standing near my storm." Her mouth wobbled, then said, "He says you're punishing him." "I'm feeding people," I said. "Punishment isn't warm. This is." She looked around the small room, the chalkboard, the 4-top by the window, the picture of my mother with a spoon and a half smile. "What is River and Rye?" she asked. "Really?" "A promise," I said, "and a bridge my mother built one winter. We're just repainting it, that's all." She nodded. "I don't know how to do this without picking sides." "You don't have to," I said. "You can pick skills. You're good at making people look. Consider trying to make them see." Lena left with bread wrapped in paper and her phone still in her pocket. That felt like a small miracle. By evening, the gossip had circled town twice. A blogger posted a split photo. Notice on one door, open on the other. The caption asked which side served the real thing. I didn't answer. I stirred. Maya came for the dinner rush in a sweatshirt and ponytail. She tied on an apron without asking. Had she ever worked a full shift? No. Did she learn fast? Yes. "Board says we comp 12 bowls tonight," she said. "You still want to do that?" "More," I said. 20. For anyone who brings a picture of their mother, preferably one where she's laughing. Maya blinked. "That could be messy." So is starting over, I said. Let it be. They came. Photos with coffee stains, Polaroids with sun-white corners, a snapshot of a woman in a softball uniform from '78, a nurse in white shoes, a cashier with a smile that could stop a fight. We lined them up along the shelf above the counter. A paper town of women. It made the room quieter and fuller at the same time. At 9, Ruth texted me a screenshot. Hearing confirmed. Friday, 9 a.m. She added a period and nothing else. I swept. I stacked bowls. I hung the dish towels just so. When the door was locked and the bell was still, I sat at table 4 with the letter and let my mother finish her say. Kindness is a bridge, not a deed. I thought about the winter she wrote it, about the man who borrowed our name and gave it back, about how a son can grow up believing a sign is a birthright, when it was really a neighbor's open hand. I wrote one sentence on a card to tape by the register tomorrow. We serve what is ours to make, not less, not more. Across the street, the other kitchen lights burned late and bright. Mark thrives on bright. He always has. But bright isn't the same as clear, and clear is what I needed. I closed my notebook and put the pen away. Tomorrow would bring 3 things: prep, people, and papers I didn't have to fear. On my way out, I tapped each photo on the shelf like a blessing. The softball uniform, the nurse, the cashier. At the door, I looked back at the room. It smelled like thyme and good choices. Friday, I said to no one in particular. Let the paperwork talk. I turned the lock. I walked home under a sky full of ordinary stars, the kind that show up every night without asking for applause. Some victories are loud. Some are a soup that keeps its promise. Either way, the name on the sign has to mean something mine does. It always did. I just had to claim it. Friday, 8:41 a.m., files in my bag, a pen that writes on the first try. I wore the quiet coat. Ruth met me at the corner. She doesn't do pep talks, she does doors. She opened the right one, fluorescent lights, a sign that said, Hearing Room A, a clock that was 3 minutes fast, chairs that made people sit up straighter. This is administrative, the chair said. Not a trial. Keep it civil, keep it brief. We did. Ruth slid one page and then another. The sketch from my mother's notebook, the filing receipts, supplier letters, proof of use, no adjectives, just nouns that hold. Across the table came small questions, dates, addresses, who signs checks. I answered without explaining my whole life. The papers answered more. At 9:21, the chair spoke like a metronome. Pending final review. Contested use of the mark is suspended. Status quo stays with the filer. A sentence only a clerk could love. But I heard the music in it. We walked out into a hallway that smelled like buffed floors and strong coffee. Ruth tapped the folder. Let the paper keep talking, she said, and go feed your people. So we did. By noon, the street had a small crowd again. Phones, questions, opinions in hats and sunglasses. I stood on my own curb and said one thing. I won't talk about other people's kitchens. I will talk about mine. It's open. If you are hungry, come in. Some crossed, some didn't. That's how streets work. Mark stood across from me for the first time in weeks. No camera, no speech. Just a man with his hands in his pockets, learning how to be still. Congratulations, he said. Thank you, I said. It took a village, and a filing fee. Silence did something kind between us. It didn't rewrite the past. It just stopped adding footnotes to it. I have an offer, I said. Because we were a team once, And you're good at the part I never wanted. He tilted his head. Go on. Director of experience, I said. 2 nights a month, cooking demos, stories, meet the farmers, payroll employee, not owner, clear lines, no keys to the sign, you shine where you shine. He breathed out, someplace between a laugh and a surrender. That's generous. It's practical, I said. You love the light. Come stand in it without owning it. I turned to Lena. Her phone stayed in her pocket. That felt like a good omen. You're good at making people look, I said. Come try to make them see. River and Rise stories, short videos about craft, not gossip. Prep, farm boxes, knife work, no romance, just skill. Lena blinked hard. I don't know if I deserve a second chance. None of us earn ours, I said. We just stop wasting them. I handed them both printed offers. No pressure, no deadline. Adult choices, right on paper. Maya slid beside me with 2 bowls and 3 napkins. She didn't say I told you so. She said, Grandma's stew tastes like a plan. We kept serving. The local paper asked for a pull quote. I gave them one for the community page. Names are promises. We serve what is ours to make. The rest is noise. No victory music played. No confetti fell. Just bowls leaving hands and coming back empty. Just a town learning how to eat together without choosing teams. 6 months later, the sign looked older in the best way, like a word that had been spoken often and kindly. Sunday suppers became a thing. Pay what you can. Extra goes to the women's shelter and the school pantry. We keep the receipts. We keep the lights warm. Mark took the demo job. He tells stories about failure that make young cooks brave enough to try again. He takes off his ring light when he talks about stock bones. He's better in person than on camera. A lot of us are. Lena runs River and Rise stories with rules we wrote in simple English. No rumors, no heat without light. She films hands and ingredients and the way a room sounds when people trust each other. Her most watched video is a 5-minute lesson on how to cut an onion without crying, which, of course, is impossible. We cry anyway. We just keep our fingers safe. Maya handles the books now. She color codes the calendar. She knows every invoice due date and every farmer's kid's name, the ledger balances. So do we. Ruth returned the fountain pen. Use it for beginnings, she said, not endings. In my office, my mother's letter sits in a frame that doesn't match anything. Under it, the renewal notice for the mark. Signed on time. Logged where it belongs. A promise kept with ink instead of speeches. Some evenings, I unlock the door for the last customer and let the bell ring 1 extra second. It sounds like a small life doing its big job. It sounds like a street walking in. If you needed this story, take what you need from it. You are not too late to rename your life. Start with the name, then keep the light moving. I turn the sign to rest. The room exhales. Tomorrow, we do it again. That's not revenge. That's a menu. And the name on the sign, it means what it says, at last. You're never too late to rename your life. Start with the name. Then, keep the light moving. Subscribe if you're ready for your next chapter.